Alrighty y'all, in today's video we're going to talk about being a co-angler and learning new spots from your boater. You know what? But first, let's fix this. Alright, so just in case you did not know, there are proper ways to hang an American flag. And I had mine messed up. So appreciate all the comments of people who said that, did look it up online, found that yes, it was absolutely wrong. Matter of fact, I had somebody comment in my older video saying that I was doing it wrong and I'd actually changed it without looking. So looked it up this time, proper way to do it. Thanks for commenting. Alrighty y'all, Lou here from Beyond the Bounds. This is a channel geared towards bass fishing, tournament footage, gear reviews, everything that has to do with bass fishing. So if you like that sort of thing, hit that subscribe button down below. Let's get into today's topic, which is a pretty sensitive topic, talking about co-anglers who steal spots. Now that's a bit inflammatory. I know this is a very sensitive topic. There are definitely going to be some panties that get twisted up while I talk about this topic. But first I kind of want to explain my position on it. I started being a co-angler not to learn spots, not to learn exactly where that guy is fishing, so that I could come back there next year and fish that exact same spot, or the same spot as another boater. That is not why I became a co-angler, and that is not why I went down the co-angler route. As a co-angler, I wanted to learn why that guy was fishing that spot. I wanted to take the knowledge that I have of fish movements, patterns, cover, structure, and relate that to see how someone else was fishing that, see what kind of techniques they were using, learn from them in that sense. Go to a spot and then try to figure out, okay, what made this spot good? How did he probably find these fish? Not necessarily like, oh great, this is a spot that I can return to this next year. So for me, it was about learning why the fish were there, seeing if I could have figured that out myself, and again, just learning from that other individual, not stealing their spot. At the same time, a lot of these spots these guys go to, that's not their spot. They want to say that it's their spot, but it's probably a well-known community hole. Matter of fact, take the Potomac. There are hardly any places that I could show you on the Potomac that are not community holes. Everybody knows about them. They're all well established, and this goes across places across the country. Matter of fact, one of the things that I'm going to show you is a clip from FLW Circuit Breaker season number 2, to where you had this exact situation transpire. So let's take a look at that.
I can't even keep her still, she's so green.
Chad was fishing a spot in front of the Moore's Landing area, which he actually got from his travel buddy and BFF, JT.
So I think that's a really good spot on where to stop that and kind of talk about that. Look at that. These guys share information. It wasn't even his spot to begin with. It wasn't probably even JT's spot. He probably learned it from somebody else too. But you know what? To hear them say that, like, oh, he gave it to him, that's something that these guys are doing. They're sharing information across the board to each other. They're sharing it out. So it's already being shared. It's already being aired on TV. These things get known.
I actually don't know him very well. He seems to be a real nice guy. I know he can fish because I did meet him last year at Kentucky Lake. And I don't really like the ending of that story, but.
So when he says, I don't really like the ending of that story, at the end of the day, these guys, if you're at the front of the boat, you are going to want to outfish the guy at the back of the boat, plain and simple. I mean, there are going to be plenty of people who are like, yeah, I want my co-angler to catch them. Absolutely, you want your co-angler to catch them. But at the same time, you're still up there to win. You still entered this tournament to win. And it doesn't give those guys up at the front a really good feeling when the guy behind them cracks a lot of pounds.
He had the biggest stringer of the tournament out of the front or the back of the boat. He just happened to be out of the back of my boat when I had 13.5 pounds and he had 25 something. So it just shows that sometimes when you're around them, you can't always catch them, and he did that day.
I had the biggest sack for a co-angler that day, and I think it was like 22 or 23 pounds.
Casey whipped both our asses out of the back of Chad's boat really bad.
13 and 20, that is a huge spread, guys. And that, I can sympathize with the guy up at the front in the sense that, man, that would stink. That would stink to be up there to know that you're around fish, and man, the guy in the back just cracks them. And it just happens that time when you're around fish and your boater's not trying to front end you, not trying to keep you off of something. You'll hear here in a second that he was like, we're in a flat, man. I couldn't really control kind of where he casted, which is the best situation for both parties in that sense. The boater shouldn't have to try to keep the co-angler off fish, although they will do it. They will position the boat so that their casting is their preference, so that they have the better opportunity to catch fish.
I think Chad had still a little animosity towards me.
They liked his bait better than mine, which was really frustrating in fishing.
If he weighed that 23 pounds on day one, he would have made the cut easily in that event and done real well, and probably maybe even made the Forest Wood Cup that year. So yeah, I think he still resents me for that quite a bit.
I mean, ouch. That when you consider that might have kept him out of the Forest Wood Cup that year. I don't know if he made it that year or not. I'd have to go back and check. But yeah, that stinks. I mean, that doesn't give you a good feeling. So, you know, that's kind of the situation, especially at that level. Now, I know they've done away with co-anglers since then in the past couple seasons. But, you know, when you're at that level and that's the kind of money and things that are on the line, you know, it really elevates things beyond the just we're buds fishing to that next level of this is real money, this is real livelihoods that are on the line.
We were in a flat as big as this parking lot, and you could cast here, 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 over there. And I'd cast here, 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 and I'd move the boat around, and he'd throw there, and then he'd catch one. We're throwing at Alabama rigging. I would catch a 3-pounder, and he would catch a 6.
Oh, wait, what was that? They were throwing the same thing? Oh no, that goes against all the rules of co-angling. You're not supposed to throw the same thing. I can't tell you how many times I've seen comments on my videos to where like, you should be throwing something different than the boater. Well, if the boater's throwing something that works, and if it's working during that time of the season, throw it. Throw the same thing as them. There are plenty of times where I've had the boater change his bait to match mine so that he can start catching fish. That's the nature of the game.
Jerk.
It was one of those days like everything just went right for me, and he was, I don't want to say he was spinning out, but he was just kind of getting real frustrated.
I tied for 50th, and I lost the tiebreaker.
He might have got one of, you know, a small check in that event, but he definitely didn't. I don't think he got a $10,000 check.
He's fine, but that day I wanted to punch him in the face.
I think when he's saying that, you can definitely tell he's kind of joking, but it still stings. You know, you can't get that back. So there is still that competitiveness between the two, and there's still that like, oh, if you just wouldn't have done that well, you know, I could have had probably tens of thousands more dollars in my bank account because of that.
He won the tournament, by the way, by a lot.
Out of the back of the boat, you're looking for 5.5. 5 today worth 13 pounds, 13 ounces. Your champion is Casey Martin, 51 pounds and 6 ounces of Kentucky and Berkeley Lake bass.
So therein lies the question, and I want you to drop down in the comment section what you think of this next part below. Please don't direct them at me. I have nothing to do with this other than I just want to kind of have this conversation, this discussion, put out this material so that other people think about this. Because what you have this next year is you have Casey Martin going back to the exact same spot that his boater the previous year had taken him.
No way. This is just crazy.
And we have Chad, JT, and Casey Martin all back in front of Moores on day one of the tournament.
Casey, yeah. You could find your own spot. You had to come where I took you.
I mean, I figured I need to show you how to catch them again.
Uh-oh.
Now, like I said when I began this video, you know, that's what this whole video is about. It is about, you know, do you as a co-angler go back to that exact same spot that your boater took you last year? Now, in my videos, you don't see a lot of the practice that I put in. You know, in front of Champlain, I put in a week of practice just as a co-angler. For Thousand Islands, I put in 2 weeks of practice just as a co-angler. And a lot of people are like, why are you going to even practice as a co-angler? Trust me, it really matters to put in that time and practice so that you can dial in how you're going to present your baits from the back of the boat. Because like I've said in my other videos, you can't just be casting up to the front. So you have to learn how to do things from the back of the boat versus doing things from the front of the boat. So I advise you, especially if you're fishing and practicing as a co-angler, always fish from the back of the boat. Don't join your buddy up at the front of the boat just so you can catch fish, because I guarantee you that's what helped me get to where I did this year at the Costa, was the fact that I finally got to practice some. But therein lies the problem. You know, even from my practice, how do I separate that out from the places that my boaters took me? I can tell you that on the second day, actually the first and second day of Thousand Islands, we went back to some of the same areas that I visited in practice. Also, as a co-angler, I can't unsee things. I think the point of being a co-angler is to learn why the fish were there. Learn that, okay, I was there that time of the year and they were doing this kind of thing. How does a boater expect a co-angler to unsee things? Like I said, I've been to the same locations as all of these guys. Day 2 of my Costa on Lake Champlain, I literally hit my boater because I was like, whoa, 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 you're gonna run up on something right now. And he was like, yeah, I know, we're gonna go fish that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But, you know, it was something that was completely unmarked, but I knew it was there. I caught 17 pounds there, but now you're saying that I can't return back there, even though I literally was like, hey, watch out. On a body of water that I've only spent a week on, you know, I was able to tell him that. That's where it really becomes one of those true thin, fine lines of what's right or what's wrong. I actually want to take you to a discussion that I had with my buddy Ken Smith down in Texas about this same topic. So let's take a look at that real fast.
All right, so Lou and I are continuing our conversation about boater, non-boater. So ask me the question you were just asking.
Okay, so say the area that we're in right now, you know, you and I are fishing in a tournament today, and we come to this spot and we catch some fish over in this area. And next year in the BFL, as a co-angler, my boater brings me to this exact same area, or maybe even, you know, starts out here, and I say something along the lines of, hey, you know, I've actually caught them okay in this area, or I've caught them good in this area. What's your thoughts on that as a boater, as another boater?
So I would even say last week, right? You come in here and you fish a different tournament the following week. If another guy brings you in here, I wouldn't care. Now, what I would do if I were a co-angler, and what would strike me well as a boater, is if you called me.
So Ken makes a really good point, and I think that's where you can help bridge this gap as a co-angler who maybe transitioned to a boater or something. You can go to those people. Granted, I don't think Chad or JT would have been very receptive of Casey had he said, hey bud, I'm gonna go back to that same location that we went last year. But that probably would have gone a long way, said a lot about his character had he done that beforehand. Even if they would have said, man, kick rocks, don't you show up there, or that's our spot, don't you ever show up there. It's like at this day and age, man, people can find the same stuff. It is truly hard to find something that is solely a secret little spot.
And said, hey man, listen, I just want you to know that Saturday, that guy carried me into Mill Creek. It was a real similar area to where we fished. I did not put him on your key spots, but we fished that same area. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good courtesy, because what you don't want to have happen is another guy, one of my buddies, see you and go, man, you know, Lou had that boater back in that same area we were in last. And then I would, and not having all the information, I'm not saying that I'm a hothead, but you know,
to conclusions.
I would go, what the, you know, why was he in there? So no, I would think that's fine. Now, to that point, so let's say there's a brush pile on that point and that guy brings you in here. I would prefer if you didn't say, man, there's a big brush pile right over there. But I can't say if I was a co-angler, I wouldn't go, man, there's a big brush pile right over there. So
it's such a sensitive topic. You know, there's a courtesy to it, and there's it's hard to say there's a right or a wrong.
Well, and look, everybody, if you've ever posted any video about this, the one comment we're going to get from the trollers is nobody owns the water. And nobody owns the water, right? Yeah. They don't. So I'm curious, you made a comment earlier which I think is really interesting. You have practiced with some of your guys before BFLs and Costas, right?
Correct. So in the practice environment, if you and I were practicing, no way. My lips are sealed. I would never be like, yeah, we were just in here and we were catching, 4-pounders. Especially if me and my partner, who I'm practicing with, no way. I mean, I even had that in one of my coaches where we went to the exact same area that we had practiced in, we'd gone to in practice. He's like, hey, if anywhere you want to go in this area, and my response was, my buddy that I'm traveling with is Joe Thompson, so
Joe.
so he's kind of in the mix of it too, so that's why I'm like, yeah, there's spots I'd want to go, but I mean, I'd love to say something. Man, my partner, he's probably going to be fishing this exact area, and I can't tell you anything because, I'm not gonna mess up his chances, and he's my buddy, and so there's confidentiality there that I would not ever think about breaking. But a boater from a previous year who maybe took me to the same area, and I know, hey, there's a rock pile over there, because when I was dragging my Carolina rig across it, I learned that it was it. I can't unlearn things.
Right. I am over the worry of having a co-angler in the boat and possibly losing some information, because he helps me gather more data. We just proved it right there, right? I had a fish miss a topwater lure or a wake bait. You fire in there and catch a buzz bait. That's a piece of data I would not have had you not been in the boat with me. So I want that data.
I've got places on the Potomac and things like that people have shared with me to where you've never seen them in a video. I'll never show them on a video. I don't go there, especially if I know I'm fishing against them. That's just how it is. So I guess the real takeaway that I want for guys who are just getting into this as to be a co-angler is don't go in this to learn spots, right? You're not going to be able to unsee those spots, but if one guy takes you to a cove that's got specific types of docks and you're catching them on it, maybe try to replicate that somewhere else. Don't necessarily go back to that exact same spot. For me to say that I've never been back to a spot that my boater has taken me, absolute lie. Done that tons of times on the Potomac, but again, tons of community holes on the Potomac. But as a co-angler, go into it just, again, trying to learn, trying to see like, oh man, here I spent all week at Thousand Islands drop shotting, and now my boater's throwing a Carolina rig, and he was throwing a Carolina rig on the exact same places that I was fishing during practice, and he's catching good quality fish, catching 20-pound stringers. Those are the little things that you come away with when you get to see, oh, okay, that's the one thing that he was doing differently, and that's the one thing that he was cueing on to catch those bigger bites. That's why he has those waypoints where he has them. Those are the things that you want to look for, not the like, oh, I'm going to go exactly back to that waypoint, because I personally don't agree with that. I don't want to go right back to where that waypoint is, because I think the thing that truly separates the levels of competitive bass fishing is the ability to find fish. Now, those guys get help. To say that, for them to say that they don't or something like that, complete lie. They get help. You know what? They might have taken what someone gave them, built on that, and then found more. But tons of these guys get help. They've mentioned it numerous times throughout the tournament seasons that, hey, oh, this person gave me this spot. All I'm saying is go into it with the idea that you're going to learn how to find those fish. You're going to see how they were fishing, and hopefully you can build something off of that so that when you come out there to compete, whether it be in your own boat, you can do well based on things that you've found and patterns you've developed, and you're not just fishing spots that some boater took you to. But guys, that's it for this video. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Y'all have a good one.